Okay, hi. Let's get started here. I'm Chuck Boyce and with Cibi Creative, and this is my weekly Tuesday Pulse webinar every Tuesday, 3 o'clock Eastern. I'll go over a topic, and today's topic is going to be how to build an app in an hour, launching using one of the no-code app builders to show how easy it is to come up with what I like to call a minimal viable product or a utility or some way to prove an idea with an AI built app. So going forward, this is just going to talk about do some hands-on, create an app, show you how to go through the process and what's involved with building one of these. Let me let someone in. Okay, so we're just getting started and talking about how to use these no-code app builders to come up with a quick idea. So this is hands-on for me anyway. I'll be doing hands-on, showing you how to demo. This is something you can easily do. A lot of the builders that are available right now are pretty easy to use. And they vary in pricing, so it's hard to say what's the best one. You really have to try some different versions and see which is best for your use case. But again, this is to show you that you can come up with an idea and build an app within an hour. This would be a minimal viable product. It's not something that may be something that you'll use immediately or make it commercial or be able to monetize, but it will get you going. Again, these results here are just for demonstration purposes. It will give you an idea of what you can do and what you can't do, and what your anticipated or expected costs may be going forward. So the promises that talk about the 4 shifts that make this a viable option, the 5-step framework that you can use to write these, and then we'll work on building an application. So stay till the end, and the bonuses I have are a few different guides. One is a plan first guide, how to plan before you start building to get the best use out of your prompt usage. The next would be a prompt to prototype swipe file, which has some hands-on cut and paste uses that you can just paste in to start building, and then some tips and traps that you'll run into with these code builders, mainly in troubleshooting and how to work around certain situations that you will run into. So I'm Chuck Boyce. I've been in the software computer industry for coming up on 40 years now, and I've always liked to stay ahead of technology. I spent a lot of my early career in corporate 500, worked for IBM, WebMD, Janrain, a few different companies like that. Got tired of the corporate bureaucracy, went into smaller companies, startups, e-commerce, some advertising, went into digital marketing for a while. And for the last 2 years, I've been focusing on AI. But my main goal is to help people understand how to use AI once they understand their business. Hold on. Is how they can save time and increase revenue by using these easy to use tools as long as they understand the framework behind it. So the problem that a lot of entrepreneurs face right now is that they have great ideas and they know that it will work, but there's too many tools to choose from. Even in the no-code app building environment, there are, just off the top of my head that I can think of, Famous and Bolt and Lovable and Replit and Bubble, and there's so many of them, and they all have different features. There's some that are going to survive, there's some that won't, but that's just how the AI world works. There's a lot of things that come out, but in general, they all do basically the same thing. You type your idea into a prompt and you get a result. The great thing is that it used to cost, or it still does, if you want to get a professional developer, you could be charging $5,000 to $50,000, $100,000 for a simple application. And it takes time, weeks and months of iterations. And so what these new tools allow you to do is to take advantage of these 4 shifts. So it used to be very complex. You had to understand the programming languages, which language is going to be best applied for your situation, and then spend lots of time writing the code, visualizing it, coming up with your wireframes, going back and forth. It used to be very complex, and now it's simple. You write I want to do this, and you get it to write the code for you. It used to be very time consuming. It used to take weeks, months, years to come up with this. It now becomes very rapid. You can take months-long development cycles and turn it into a weekend. It used to be very expensive. Programmers, developers, either to hire them on staff or to write a custom application, could be tens of thousands of dollars, or starting at $50 a month or more for just the programming cost. And so it used to be expensive. Now you buy a tool and you can get started. And it used to be very technical, requiring lots of programming expertise. And now it's very accessible to anyone with an idea. And so these shifts really did make a lot of difference. And that's why you see so many tools coming out on the market that are AI built, because there's just so many options out there, with these tools creating even more options for apps and utilities. So when you're building using these, there's a pretty simple framework for doing it. First of all, identify the need. You can use ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or whatever your LLM of choice is to find where an idea could help a business or make a product that people will want to buy. So the first thing is to do research on your market. Use those tools to identify where weaknesses and shortcomings are, and then take advantage of that. Once you have the need identified and you found that you think there's a good market for it and it's a great idea, then the next step is to design the solution. So once you have your solution, what you want to do is develop the workflow. And the key in using these tools is to come up with a minimal viable concept, a minimal viable product or feature that you can utilize and take advantage of right away. That allows you to go into step number 3, is to validate the concept. With a smaller project, with a single viable option, you can get validation much faster. And when you're validating, that might be through talking to customers, talking to your friends. It could be sending out surveys. It could be email responses, or using an app like I created, a virtual focus group, or doing a real focus group. But what you want to do before you spend any time is at least get some idea if this is going to work in the marketplace. Next, use these no-code builders to quickly build a prototype. And I'll show you 2 different versions here and how different versions of these products work. Some are more slanted towards functionality and others towards look, and it really depends on where you want to go with it before you can build your prototype, develop it, iterate it, test it before you then launch and grow. And so once you're ready to launch and grow, you can deploy it. And again, based on the tools, some of these have analytics built in. Some you want to integrate with analytics tools. But once it starts being used by your end users, you'll want to see which features are being used and where people are falling off. And so again, it's constant iteration. You're constantly redesigning, you're validating, you're rebuilding, and you're relaunching. And so once you get going, you have the need and you have the solution, then it becomes a cycle of improvements. So what I want to build today is something that a lot of people could possibly take advantage of. And this is just a long form content repurposer. And so a lot of people may have concepts like ebooks or books or things like YouTube videos that you can get the transcript from, but they're longer forms of content. And then what you can want to do is you may want to make social posts, or you may want to make other smaller versions, tweets, carousels, email drafts, headlines, newsletters, whatever. You can take that larger form content and break it down and use it in multiple forms. And so you constantly have evergreen content based on one long form. This is great if you have books, or again, a long YouTube video with the transcript. It's easy to turn that into smaller chunks of content, which then means you can maximize your reach by either having them consume the long form or getting snippets in whatever form you want to get out to your audience. So what I want to do is show you how we can do this. I'm going to use both famous.ai, which is one that I've been using for a bit, and then bolt.new, which is a newer product, very similar functions, but I'll show you how they differ. And so by the end of this, you'll see what a prototype can come up with within an hour. And so what I want to do is go through the identifying the need, validating the concept, and then building. And so what I ended up doing was to come up with this original idea of a content repurposer. Was I set in a chat to ChatGPT, and I said, you're a product strategist and need a detailed product description for an app concept that is going to be called a content repurposer, and its problem is that coaches, consultants, and small businesses are creating long-form content, but they rarely reuse it. The app will then take that content and auto-generate 5 new formats: LinkedIn posts, tweets, carousels, email headlines. And that way you'll get more value out of your existing content, and one piece of work will have 5 outputs. And so that's the chat I put in. And what it came up with was this quick utility. It says, I want it to be called Repurposer. It's a utility that will create this basic output that I just described. And then I wanted a better version. So I just used ChatGPT and said, create a better version of this prompt. And so it went through and it did a prompt called, let's build an app. And so it improved upon my initial idea, but it made one that was specific for the app builders that I was interested in working for. And so it knows how those utilities work. And so it rewrote my prompt to be used for this purpose. And so what I'm going to do is copy this code and we'll use. So the first app is famous.ai. Famous.ai, it's free to start. When you first start using it, you get, I think it's 3 prompts a day and like 15 prompts a month. And so for the free version, you can do something, but you'll have to do it over a period of time because the prompts get used pretty quickly. And so they have various tiers. Let's see, in a dashboard, account, billing, subscriptions. So their prescriptions here, they have the free version, they have the $7, $47, $97. Each one gives you more functions, more hosting, better speeds, better discounts on process. So you can upgrade and downgrade as needed. And so when you're first starting, you may want to start with something like the $100 and get a lot of credits. And then once you're getting something that works, downgrade into a lower one. And so that's how you can save your costs. These get really expensive. When you first start, they'll guide you in and say, oh, it's $30 a month or $27 or $50 a month. And you'll think that's what your cost is going to be. But then they'll start saying, oh, by the way, we have usage costs, and we have database costs, and we have integration costs, we have, they'll start nickel and diming you. And so your $30 subscription may run you suddenly $300 for a month. And so you have to be able to monitor that type of stuff. And when you're in a project like Famous, these are projects, and they show you it's a website. With Famous, when you go into it, you can see you can either build a web-based app, a mobile app, or a crypto app. And so the first thing you do with Famous is what kind of app do you want to do? And then they have 2 different building modes, or 3 different building modes. They have just your basic mode. They have a bulldozer mode, which is what they'll do is you can take a really super long, complex prompt, and it just like a bulldozer, it'll just go through and it will build everything really fast, nice, deep thinking, meticulous. It's for complex multi-step tasks. The genius mode is what's really cool, is that it was designed with marketing in mind. And so it builds you a very beautiful, optimized site that is captivating, has great hooks and everything like that. And so it's a little more expensive. It's our most expensive model. But again, you can switch between Bulldozer and Genius. I'm just going to use the base mode here. One thing to also look at when I showed you here if you look, it'll show if you're connected to a database. And right now, Famous uses Supabase as its backend. You'll need, if you want a database to store any data, you'll have to get a Supabase account, which again is free for a certain level, but you may want to go to their base $25 version. But again, there's going to be extra costs on database usage. You don't always need a database. Like here's one that I didn't have one. The little bed is if it's sleeping. And when you go into, that's where you can save costs. And so when you look at it, your projects will show you if you have a domain you can attach to it. And there's a little mode here called sleep mode. And that just puts it to sleep and you won't get any extra charges if you're not working on it or if it's not a live project. So going back into here, I'm going to take my prompt that I had copied and I'm just going to paste it directly in. What do I want to build? This is the app, and it's just going to make it private here and let it go off. Now it's just going to go saying, here's what it's going to do, and it's starting generation. While it's doing that, I'm going to go into Bolt. Now Bolt is very similar. It's what do you want to build today? Bolt, again, does very similar pricing wise. What's nice about Bolt is that they have a free version. And the next one is a $25 version, which gives you 10 million tokens a month, which sounds like a lot, but if you're building, use them in different ways. I'm on their $50 plan right now, which is 26 million prompts. And once I'm done with the current project, I'm going to go back down to either the free or the 10 million credit, just because I may not use this one. I like it, but there are some things that I don't like about it. And so I'm still probably going to end up going more with Famous. But anyway, the same general concepts. I'll paste that same prompt into here and we'll build. Very similar. It shows you what it's doing along the way. It's thinking. It shows, this one shows you how many tokens you currently have available to you. So it'll keep track and let you know where your budget is. Let's go back to Famous and see if that's done. Famous is still building right now. And you can monitor what it's been doing. It's been generating. It says, okay, I want this large text area for my prompt. It's starting to generate some images. It's building variations. And it's slowly just building this app. The Genius mode may take a little bit longer. Bulldozer mode, it depends on the complexity of the app. Now there's pros and cons that the vendors suggest. You could either go with a very simple prompt and then iterate along the way and build on you go, or for those who want to stay budget conscious and use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your LLM of choice is to build a very complex prompt and copy that and paste it in a one-shot mode. You're going to have different results depending on which way you want. It really, once you start using these, it's personal preference. You may like doing the iterative approach and more prompting and just tweaking as you go along, or just say, here's my main idea, build it out, and then I'll tweak it as we go along. And both of these are still building. Now, the pros and cons of these that I found is that even if you are just starting and you want to come up with a concept or you want a utility that you're going to use for your job, if it starts to get complex, you may want to bring in a designer. That's why these tools aren't going to take away jobs. They're not going to be the godsend of here's how I can save a lot of money. But if you want it to look good, if you're going to commercialize it or monetize it in any way, you may want to bring in a designer to help you with the look and feel. You may need a developer to fine tune your code and help you troubleshoot. You may need a database person to help you understand the underlying structure and how you want your database to work. And so you're not going to be replacing these people. You can limit the time that you need to use them, but in the meantime, if you get into complex builds, you may need to get a designer or a programmer or a database person to help you out. And so that's just, you can use your LLMs, your ChatGPTs or Claudes to help you troubleshoot, but it's going to be a lot better to get that human context in. And so for the first person here, first round here, what Famous does is every time it builds something, it gives you the next ideas. And so do you want to get real AI integration? Right now, it's using what it knows. But if you want to get real AI integration, what it's going to do, it's going to prompt you for an API key. And so if you're using ChatGPT, if you have a professional account or a Claude account, you can get an API key and enter it in here, and then it will go out and actually use your API LLM to get your content instead of just using it local. Here it's saying, do you want to keep a history? Do you want to do export? And so there's a lot of different options that it tries to think ahead of what you want it to do. And so this one said, turn a piece of content into 3 opportunities, paste your content, choose your format, and get 3 variations. Looks pretty straightforward. It already builds footer, and it has a header, very simple. Create this, go back to your history, what type of tone, you can give it custom instructions, and then what kind of output do you want. And so I'm going to go out to here and go to YouTube. And I'm just going to do a search on business coaching. Look for something here, best business model for beginner coaches. This is a 33-minute, so that's a pretty good content. I don't want to actually run it, but I'm going to go down into more and look for the transcript. So here you can show the full transcript. There it is. And one of the first things you want to do is go and toggle the timestamps. So now I'm just going to take that whole transcript, go back to my app, and paste it into here. So now I suddenly have my 30-minute transcript from a webinar. And this is my long content. And I want to say, I want to create an email newsletter in a casual format. And so here, variation, so that's not a very good variation. Blog summary. Oh, regenerate. That's not doing very well on this one. Twitter's, looks like every variation is going to be different. And so this is something that now the next step would be say that the content generated is very generic and not matching the format selected. Improve the generated. So I'll put that in there, and while that's going through, we'll jump over to Bolt and see how it handled it. And so here, it's very similar. It doesn't look nearly as nice, very plain Jane, which is one of the differences between Bolt and Famous. Famous tends to add more color and make it more pretty right away, whereas Bolt gives you pretty much plain bones. But the same output, you have paste your content, select which format you want, and then your refinement options. Famous added a few more things, but I'll post this one in here and say, let's see how this does an email newsletter. And we'll make this a professional. So we'll generate these variations. So here's, it did a little better, but it still started out interestingly. I grew up in Australia, and so here's a deeper look, talks about ophthalmology. And so here's 3 different variations of a newsletter. For a blog summary, gives you key points, bottom line. Again, pretty much easy to do. You can copy, you can download. It's not the best output, so you'll probably want to do some variations again here, similar to what I did here in saying, I'll do the same. That looks kind of generic. Let's see how it will improve that. So in general, this is how you would go using these products. Oftentimes, what's going to happen when you start getting into more complex things is it's going to start getting errors. And when you want to start troubleshooting and things like that, the great thing about it is that it can help you troubleshoot its own errors. So a very good thing to do is when you run into errors is to use a 3-piece troubleshooting. You say, here's what I wanted to do, here's the error that you came up with, and here's what I really wanted, or here's the request, here's your problem, here's what I want it to do instead. And so if you use that type of format to help it troubleshoot, it will. And the great thing is that you can do screenshots of the errors. And let's see now if I repaste my content. Let's go back and copy that. I'll probably grab too much there, but oh, wrong one. Oh, so now the video content script, it comes up with the content creating, gives you an idea for an image, and a short video sales script. A blog a little bit longer. But again, it needs some tweaking in how you want to do this. But again, with one prompt, I created a way to take long content and turn it into a bunch of different variations. So here's where you'd start going through and how you want it to redo itself. And so here, oh, it's still working on this one. So in general, let's see what else I have here. That was really the differences. I was hoping to see an error message to show you some troubleshooting ideas, but don't have that. Now what I'm talking about here with Bolt, I want to go back into an app that I don't want to leave here. I'll let it continue. But I've been working on an idea for a Bolt app, and I wanted to do some integration with I'll come over here. And so here I was creating this assessment of, I wanted to, this is a questionnaire that I want to be able to offer people about how ready are they for their implementing AI in their business. And so here is my original way up here, but it's going on and on. And you can see that when I first started, it was pretty straightforward and simple. And so here's my original prompt that said, start with all this, build your whole test, do all the scoring, and it came up with this great idea. So it built it all, and everything worked great. However, it was storing everything in its own database. And so what I wanted to do was attach it to my Go High Level CRM. And I said, well, I want to use the Go High Level to capture the lead information. And when I started incorporating the Go High Level form, suddenly it was coming up with all of these problems. And so the initial app itself took maybe 2 million tokens. And then I spent another 10 million tokens trying to troubleshoot it by saying, oh, it's not doing this. First of all, I changed a few questions. I went from 10 to 15, 15 to 20. And then it started coming up with all of these ideas, and I wanted to start tying it into Go High Level. And here's where it says, okay, you need to customize your Go High Level. You need to build a form. You need to put all these hidden fields in here, and then we'll transfer everything into that. And I did all that. And then it started coming up with, oh, now I'm getting some errors. Here's the error messages. And then it's saying you don't do that. And then in the meantime, I said, yeah, put my logo in there to give it something else to think about. So I took a screenshot of some errors and said, it's still not connecting. It's doing this. And then I started looking at the console logs, and I started dumping console log error messages in and having it redo it and redo it and redo it and redo it. And that's what I said. I probably spent 5 times the number of tokens just trying to troubleshoot this as I did for the initial build. And so that's where they'll start getting you, nickel and diming you. It's at a lot of your token usage or credit usage, or however they're phrasing that, they're going to use a lot of it for troubleshooting. So it's always good to not only use the tool itself to help you troubleshoot, but go out to ChatGPT or Claude. Claude is really good with coding. So I would say a little bit better than ChatGPT. So for troubleshooting, I would always use Claude as a helper, just to help it troubleshoot the code. With all of these products, what you're able to do is you have the code mode. And so it will actually show you all of the code that it created. And if you are a coder, you can either go in and start manually doing it, or you can copy and paste any of this and say, I could say, download this whole bit, dump it into Claude, and say, analyze this and find out what needs to be improved. And then it will come up with all of your options that you can then replace the modules. And so you don't have to work back and forth. And again, Famous does the same thing. Go into the code mode, does the same format. This is all a very common format that's used in GitHub. You can, if you do have a GitHub account, which is an account that is kind of a publicly accessible, if you make it so, repository for code. And so you can then start storing it there. And instead of using Famous or Bolt or Bubble or Lovable or whichever platform you're using, you can use your own. So finding your own hosting platforms, your own database platforms, and you can try to save costs in that way, depending on how flexible you are, what your comfort level is in doing code, or what your programmers are if you're using programmers. And so all of these tools are extremely versatile, allows you to build the code, to take the code, because once it's built, you own it, and you can then just copy it into your own repository, bring it into other tools. And so the nice thing is that you can do the bulk of the work and then bring it into other tools to help troubleshoot it and make it better. So they all work very, very similar. It's really easy to get going. You're going to run into problems when you start troubleshooting, and you're going to start getting into various usage costs. And so, like I said, once you start getting into using it, it's best for coming out with your minimal viable product. That's why you don't want to start something that's super complicated and say that you have 8 functions that you want this app to do and you want each of them to be interactive. No. Use your validation. Find 1 to 3 features that will be worth using first, build on those, and then start adding once that functionality is proven to be effective. If you go to market and start getting feedback, you'll find out which features are good and which aren't. And so that goes back into here. You can see you can use it for idea generation and then validation. I didn't actually go into Virtual Focus Pro, but this again is an app that I have that you can take an idea and find some virtual avatars that match your ideal client and get feedback before spending any time and money. Once you validate your idea, you can use ChatGPT or Claude to come up with these specific prompts and build how you want to start your app. And then once you're in working on your application, focus on your minimal viable product. That works the same for virtually any business problem that requires a digital solution. And it works for any of these products that you're using, whether it's, again, Famous, Bolt, Replit, Lovable. There's so many of them out there right now, but they all have different pricing. In general, they're going to give you a very attractive initial price, and then they're going to start having additional add-on costs. So just remember, if you're going to be doing something, especially that you may want to monetize or commercialize, you're going to be spending hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands of dollars to build, but it's still going to be much faster and less expensive than having somebody do it from scratch. And so if you want to save money, you have a time crunch, and you're willing to do your own troubleshooting, these tools are really great for that, especially if you're using internal tools or internal ideas to help your business process. When you get into the monetization, you may want to bring designers in, getting you a better look and stuff like that. And so there are going to be times that you want to bring a human in if you want to go commercial or monetize it. If you're using it internal, you can do a lot of those, skip a lot of those steps because you don't need to look really beautiful. You just need the function. In this ladder, what you want to do is, first of all, understand the products. Build your AI literacy. Understand how to use prompting better, when to use it, and get better in general at prompting. It's going to help you. For me, I have a foundations workshop, which is a 2-hour workshop to show how to find your business processes that you think you want to automate, document those, and then find the best path to automate them. And then I have a master class that is a 6 to 8 week program, 2 hours a week, that goes more hands-on into how to build your blueprint and build your training around that, so your staff is using as you expect them to use. You're not just saying, I'm going to send this, we're going to automate everything with AI right now. And you have to get your staff involved and help them understand that it's not going to replace them. They have to be buy-in and understand how to use it and get their input, so they feel that you're not trying to replace them. And the human context is always going to be involved, and you have to involve your staff in these decisions and make sure that they're not afraid of using this. The implementation accelerator would be where I help you along the way. And then if you want, the fractional AI officer is to just help you, again, from a strategic point of view, figure out how AI fits into a business. Another program is is a Deal AI white label. Deal AI is another platform that allows you to monetize your knowledge. It gives you a lot of tools to market your product, but it allows you to also create custom applications and custom personalities for your clients. And so this would be a way to help you monetize your knowledge with an AI platform that's pretty easy to get going. We'll skip that. I just talked about a bunch of ways to go further with me. So some of those are completely wrong. So covered the 4 reasons why you may want to use these, a 5-step framework of how to use these app builders, how to use Famous and Bolt to build these products, and then show you a real in-depth or start. So within an hour, this is actually only 40 minutes, came up with the idea, came up with the prompt, built a simple app, and started troubleshooting it. And that was in 20 minutes. And so in less than an hour, you can do this. When you first get started, expect to burn through a lot of prompts and get used to the product and how to use it. You're not going to, unless you're really, really good, you're not going to have a one prompt solution for your $25 and then be off and running. There will be a lot of iteration involved. And again, when you start doing your additional costs, if you do have database storage, your database is going to have usage costs and storage costs. If you do APIs to get into using ChatGPT in the back end, or OpenAI or Claude, you're going to have API usage costs. You're going to have development costs. You're going to have troubleshooting costs. So there's going to be additional incremental monthly charges that you will run into. So it's not going to be super inexpensive to do this, but it is going to be less expensive than hiring somebody or buying a product that is custom developed for your needs. And so with that, I'm going to stop the recording and see if there's any questions by anybody.